rebuffed earlier, goes and has a good time at a Christmas Eve party or Christmas party, and apparently changes his whole life around. And as it says at the end of the book, Dickens tells us, Scrooge kept his word. It was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. So what I see this as, is Scrooge let the light shine within him. He started rekindling that light, and he experienced oneness with his fellow man, I'm sure with himself and with his Christ essence. Now many of us here, I doubt anyone here is like Scrooge. None of us are covetous old sinners and, feeling so self-contained and not interacting with people. However, I'd like you just to consider, though, as the new year unfolds, taking into your consciousness at times, are there any ways where you're not, as Yvette said, realizing that God is the source of supply? Are you sometimes worried about, oh, I'm going to run out of money, or thinking in the material sense, rather than totally trusting in God as your source? This is still a challenge for me, I have to say. This is something I work on daily because I haven't gotten there yet, and that's why I like these stories like A Christmas Carol, and I love Alan's teachings because it gets me back on track. So how do you, and none of us here are like Scrooge, but we all have things that we want to change, I'm sure, we want to blossom to our fullest. How do we do that? I came up with what I call the 6-step renew process. The renew, each letter of the word renew stands for something, R-E-N-E-W. The first letter, R, stands for resting in the silence and being receptive to the still small voice, or the revelation. As Alan always teaches us, revelation is key to changing our lives. So the R stands for taking time to rest in the silence. This doesn't have to be hours. And Joel Goldsmith presents a helpful technique in his book, The World is New. He said, a few times a day, 5 or 6 times a day, you can just take a minute and you can touch your ear and think, I'm open and receptive to the Christ voice, or I'm open and receptive to the living word of Christ. It can be very subtle, no one needs to know you're doing it. It's easy for me to do because I'm always doing this with my hair. So I think about opening and receiving that guidance. And also, of course, it's good to take 10 or 15 minutes time if we can in the morning or evening to sit in the silence. But that is the first key, is to remember the R and renew. If we want to renew, be transformed and changed for good, we need to seek that revelation by resting and relaxing in the silence. Then the E in the word renew stands for expectancy. We have to expect to receive an answer, a revelation. As Alan White has told us in the past, we want to listen expectantly as if we were about to be given the lotto numbers, the winning lotto numbers. Now sometimes the answer won't come in that 10 minutes, in that hour, it may come later, but listen expectantly as if any moment we would be receiving those winning lotto numbers. And as we do this, the N stands for new ideas, new inspiration will come to us. It's guaranteed as long as we listen expectantly. And then the second E in the word renew stands for embracing the revelation and acting upon it. And one person who did this very well, and I was talking, everyone here knows about Oprah Winfrey, and I was asking Alan a couple weeks ago, I said, well, what do you think explains her phenomenal success? Because he said that he ran around the same circles as she a number of years ago when she was in Baltimore, and she was a radio, I don't know if she was on radio or TV. Oh, she was on TV also. And he said that it wasn't, people didn't think at that time that she would be as phenomenally successful as she's become. And he thought it was because she went into silence and that she was really focused spiritually. Well, I had a confirmation of that the following week when I opened the November issue of the Oprah magazine. And the back, and there's a section at the very back of the magazine where she talks about different experiences. And she said in the early 1992, in her TV career, she knew she felt things weren't going right. There's a lot of competition, and perhaps the quality of the programming was going down, and she knew she had to make a change. And she said that she went out one time in Colorado in the woods for a walk, and she got still, and she said to God, what will you have me do? And she said what the answer came was to take, she said the words were to take the higher road. And she interpreted that as focusing on bringing in a spiritual dimension to her television programming. And as she says in that article, she attributes that guidance, that revelation, to her enduring success. She said many of her competitors who were trying other types of ways to keep the ratings high eventually went out of business or left. But that revelation that Oprah saw, because she sat in the silence and she listened, and she embraced it, she acted on it. And finally, the W in the word renew stands for wonders. Watch for the wonders that will result, and that's what happened to Oprah. She's become phenomenally successful, had this phenomenally successful career. And finally, the other example is one of the founders of Unity, Myrtle Fillmore, attributes her healing. When she was about 40 years old, she was told that, like many members of her family, she would die of tuberculosis within the next year or so. And she did not want to die in the next year or so, and she became exposed to new thought. And she said her healing came about because she transformed her mind, or she was transformed by the renewing of her mind. And in her words, she said, "You ask what restored me to vigorous health. It was a change of mind from the old carnal mind that believes in sickness to the Christ mind of life and permanent health. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. As he thinketh within himself, so is he. I applied spiritual laws effectively, blessing my body temple until it manifested the innate health of spirit. These wonderful laws will work for you too, when you apply them diligently and in faith." So in conclusion, as we look forward to this new year and new decade, I encourage you to think of the renew process, to consider using revelations. Take that time in the silence. It's revelations that will work, not resolutions, for enduring, powerful transformation. And so it is.